I mean, we're in the 21st century, people are being tracked all the time. Don't you already know this stuff?
There is information out there, but it's really not designed for this specific question about how disease is spread. So we might have data about where people are, but no idea of who those people are, how many contacts they're making. On a much smaller scale, there's been surveys of what interactions people have in a given day, but that's not linked to their movements. It's important to link those two things together, to have the movements and the contacts in one data set.
Those surveys, do they cover a big portion of the population?
Generally, because of the effort that's required to survey people, if you imagine writing a diary of all your contacts, it's quite an intensive effort, and the data sets are generally quite small. We're talking maybe a few hundred, 1,000 people.
Wow, OK, so in a population of millions, that's a tiny fraction of the people you might want to capture.
Yeah, we can say something general about the whole country, but we really can't understand how different regions, for example, interact with each other.
And this is the big problem. Pandemic planning relies on limited data sets from the UK, samples of just hundreds or a few thousand people, which means epidemiologists have to make their best assumptions about how we behave. But if the assumptions are wrong, the results could be too, and that could have fatal consequences, unless we can improve the current data.
So what can I do to help? What's the ideal situation here? What would you like?
What would be fantastic to have is information on how people move, and ideally not just where they think they move, but actually some way of verifying where they go, and information on who they are, what's their age, what's their professional status, and who they interact with, what kind of contacts do they have, how many people are they meeting, have they met these people before? And if we had all those things together, that would be a really useful data set.
And that would help you work out how a disease might spread in the country?
That could give us a much better understanding of how these things might spread, yeah.
OK, how many people do you need me to get on board here?
I think if we could get about 10,000 people in this kind of data set, that would be fantastic.
OK. No problem.
Getting data about the travel and social habits of 10,000 volunteers would clearly be a very dramatic improvement, a step change in the detail available to pandemic researchers. It is a challenge, but the technology that can make it happen is already out there. Smartphones are the perfect tool for pandemic research. Forget the phone bit. It's the combination of a built-in GPS tracker and specially designed apps that make them a data gatherer's dream.
OK, so here's the plan. Adam and his fellow mathematicians need GPS data and social contact data to be able to predict the spread of a pandemic. And we're going to help him using a smartphone. We have created the BBC Pandemic app, and here's how it works.
Users who download the app instantly catch our harmless virtual pandemic virus. To get the detailed data we need, the app will track their locations anonymously, once an hour for 24 hours. Users will also be asked their age and gender, and the app asks them to record the details of every person they encounter during that 24-hour period. The combined contacts, GPS and age information will be sent to our maths team at Cambridge University. Real data from 10,000 people will fundamentally improve the accuracy and detail of the current assumptions, and so predict with greater confidence than ever before how devastating the next pandemic could be.
This really is the very first time that GPS data has been combined with data about how many people you come into contact with and data about your demographics. And this is an incredibly powerful tool for predicting the spread of pandemics. Now, I don't know about you, but I think that's reason enough to download it. Now, all I need to do is get a few thousand people involved.
It is now 24 minutes past 8. Winter's coming.
This morning, our campaign to get 10,000 app users nationwide begins.
If a pandemic comes, that you can't stop it. The only thing you can do is be as prepared as possible.
Right.
It's a difference between, having 1,000 patients a day in the NHS or 10,000 patients a day in the NHS. We've built this smartphone app that you can download on all different platforms. It's called the BBC Pandemic.
Our national experiment is underway, but that's not all we're setting out to do. We're recruiting for a second experiment here in Hazelmere in Surrey.
Citizens of Hazelmere!
We want this small town to give us a close-up view of an outbreak. Watch how a virus spreads from one person to the next.
Take part today and sign up!
If we can spread a virtual contagion through Hazelmere, this unprecedented detail can be used to test the best ways to stop an outbreak. Who should be vaccinated? Should schools be closed? Or places where people gather? We've persuaded nearly 500 people from Hazelmere to take part, and they show up as blue dots here on our map. The Hazelmere app is different. Unlike the national experiment, the people here start uninfected and will only become infected if they come into contact with another infected person. This app works by pinpointing their location every 5 minutes for 3 days. The GPS tracks created by each user are sent to our mathematicians in Cambridge. The team will combine all of the tracks to identify the moments when our volunteers overlap. The equations then calculate whether someone becomes infected based on how long they remain close to an infected person. Once the calculations are done, the results will be sent back to the app, informing users whether or not they have been infected, and if so, how many people they went on to infect. The app collects data anonymously, but some users have started filming their daily lives in the moments before the BBC Pandemic hits their town. In a real outbreak, any one of them could become a victim.
Hi, my name's Lynette, I'm 61 years old.
My name's Ed, I'm 37, I'm a school teacher here in Hazelmere.
My name is Faye Walton, I'm 41 years old.
My name's Pippa Hollins, I'm a nurse in Hazelmere. I'm just about to have my breakfast with John, my husband. There's John. Say good morning, John.
Morning.
My name is Justine Charman. I live and work in Hazelmere.
So it's a nice quiet morning in the apple tree.
Everyone with the app in Hazelmere is susceptible to getting infected. But our outbreak can only start when someone who is already infected comes to town. A patient zero.
The term patient zero is commonly used to describe an individual who first introduces a contagious disease to a community. And sometimes things really are that simple. One person who somehow or other starts everything off. In 2014, when Ebola hit West Africa, epidemiologists tracked patient zero back to a 2-year-old toddler in Guinea. And in 2009, when swine flu hit the UK, it was a plane with 6 infected people travelling back from Mexico that brought it to this country. Eventually, from that handful of cases, 500,000 people would go on to be affected. So, let's imagine something similar to that last flu pandemic. I've just come back from my holiday and I'm feeling a bit tired, but it's probably just jet lag. And I've got a few errands that I need to run about town. Let the BBC Pandemic begin.
I'm now actively infectious, and the app is tracking my every move today. First to the local gym for a spot of yoga. Anyone else with the app is also being tracked. In Cambridge, our maths team enter all the GPS tracks into their model. To create a detailed map that will reveal how the virus actually spreads, we want to infect as many people as possible. So the team has set mathematical rules that mean no one is immune to the virus, and it's highly infectious. Which means I could infect someone up to 20 metres away. But the longer and closer we are to each other, the higher the probability of infection. All I need to do now is to come into contact with as many people as possible. So, time to move on. A spot of shopping, I think. I don't want to attract too much attention to myself today and risk affecting other people's behaviour, so I'm wearing a small camera as I go shopping. Can you recommend me something?
What do you like?
Science.
Well,
Where next?
I work in a shop just over the road from where I live. I've worked there for about 6 years in all now.
Have you got washers in here?
Yes.
Where are they? Our pandemic is